Recently, I've been catching a bit of heat for my positive use of the term double predestination regarding the teaching of the church. Some of you have very kindly reached out to me to let me know that I'm a heretic, leading people to hell, and am probably a Calvinist. Some of you have been so kind as to email your rant to me, making sure to tag the staff of Catholic Answers so that they can enjoy my newest video on double predestination. Here I wanted to give a few reasons to show why the usage of the term is appropriate. If you haven't watched my other video on this topic, it is necessary to explain the teaching. The first reason is easy: magisterial usage. Once one is informed of the teaching of the Church on reprobation, the difficulty that many have with the phrase double predestination is the fact that reprobation is being called predestination, since, in their mind, predestination excludes permission. Yet, as we will see later, this actually proves the opposite. Anyways, the act of reprobation has always been called predestination by the church. Ironically, the only time a number is given to predestination, the one or single predestination explicitly includes both election and reprobation. The Council of Kiersey in 853 stated as follows: "The just and good God, however, chose from this same mass of perdition, according to his foreknowledge, those whom through grace he predestined to life. And he predestined for these eternal life. The others, by whom the judgment of justice he left in the mass of perdition, however, he knew would perish. But he did not predestine that they would perish, because he is just. However, he predestined eternal punishment for them. And on account of this, we speak of only one predestination of God, which pertains either to the gift of grace or to the retribution of justice." End quote. The idea that is being presented here, that is, the retribution of justice, is the idea of a, quote, consequent positive reprobation that I explained in the other video. This is explicitly included in the, quote, one predestination of God. What is rejected here is what is termed the antecedent positive reprobation, that is, that God infuses evil into certain individuals in order to bring about their damnation, just as God infuses good into certain individuals in order to bring about their salvation. Second, we can look at the history of the term. The phrase duplex predestinatio was invented and first used by Catholics, not heretics, especially to oppose the Pelagian heresy, and then employed by medieval theologians as a traditional Augustinian term. For example, St. Isidore states, quote, "There is a double predestination, whether of the elect to rest or of the reprobate to death. Both are governed by divine judgment, so that the elect always follow the heavenly and inner things, and the reprobate, by abandonment, are permitted to delight in the lower and outer things." End quote. Third, to get back to our issue above, some have difficulty with using the term predestination, since predestination seems to imply active willing rather than simple permission. But we have to remember the axiom that the positive and the negative are reduced to the same genus. So the permission that is involved in negative reprobation is predestination by the very fact that it is a permission. Fourth, the term ought to be used to guard against heresy. As we saw in the previous video, and above in this video, the Church teaches definitively the idea of a consequent positive reprobation. Many, in rejecting the term, reject any notion of reprobation, yet its clear explanation and affirmation keeps one within the bounds of orthodoxy. Lastly, evangelism to Reformed Christians. It is clear throughout their confessional documents that they reject all heretical notions of reprobation. For example, we can look at the Synod of Dort, the most important Calvinist synod of the 17th century, which rejected the same mistaken understandings of reprobation that we reject. Quote, "That God predestined and created, by the bare and unqualified choice of his will, without the least regard or consideration of any sin, the greater part of the world to eternal condemnation. That in the same manner in which election is the source and cause of faith and good works, reprobation is the cause of unbelief and ungodliness, the Reformed churches not only disavow, but even denounce with their whole heart." End quote. The error being described here, and confused by many Catholics for double predestination, is what is called equal ultimacy.
Equal ultimacy, or sometimes called the symmetrical view of predestination. And that the way God works on both sides is in a symmetrical way. Now, we also speak in terms of what we call positive decrees. And in the case of the reprobate, God also so predestines their damnation that he intrudes into their lives by creating evil or unbelief in their hearts. So that there's a positive action in the lives of both people, creating faith in the life of one man and unbelief in the heart of the other. See what we mean now by symmetrical view. That view has been overwhelmingly rejected by Augustinians and Calvinists. That is not the Augustinian view.
It is important to remember that when you interact with Reformed Christians and say things like double predestination is heresy, you are yourself becoming a motive for them not to even consider Catholicism as viable in your ignorance. You are giving them an occasion to reject, and even worse, ridicule the religion established by Jesus Christ on earth. As St. Thomas states, when anyone in the endeavor to prove the faith brings forward reasons which are not cogent, he falls under the ridicule of the unbelievers, since they suppose that we stand upon such reasons and that we believe on such grounds. End quote. Remember, you ought to be disciplined and precise with your theological language, always clear to present your sense and never warring over words. To say such a phrase as double predestination is heresy without qualification is an inexcusable lapse in terminological discipline that opposes the manner in which many venerable saints have spoken.